In 2 weeks, RuneScape 3 is getting its own leagues, and I'm excited. I think this is a great opportunity to bring new players into RuneScape 3 combat, especially because you can skip or go past the other stuff super quickly. If you don't know what a league is, it's basically RuneScape on crack. Everything is boosted, you have more damage, more XP, more everything, and just like crack, every league has been super addictive. So what are some basic expectations for every league? It's already confirmed that we're getting better XP rates and some sort of combat buffs. In the leagues, the idea is to do a lot of tasks that get you to the next tier and give you points. And I think in this league as well, there's gonna be some sort of use for these points, but what it is isn't exactly known yet, but I have some ideas. Also, it is confirmed that everyone will be an Iron Man. I was kinda hoping that we could get a group Iron Man league going. I feel like that could be a fun twist, but maybe for the next league. Also, there will be meaningful choices between the relics. It is confirmed that you will be locked into your relic choices. So thinking about them before and making plans is gonna be a lot of fun, and making your own unique build is gonna be a big part of the league's experience. In old school leagues, one of the most successful methods has been area locking, and it's been super popular. But unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to think about it, it doesn't really fit RuneScape 3's formula that well, because a lot of things are interconnected to multiple different areas that you would have to run through and do different things like archaeology, divination. You couldn't really train these skills well at all without having all of the map open. And also a lot of the boss progression and the combat progression doesn't really work if you have shit locked. So I don't think personally that they are gonna lock things. In general, points were used to unlock these areas. You would get an X amount of points and then you would use them to unlock the area. And this was a very meaningful thing to do with your points in old school leagues. So how can we keep these point thresholds intact without needing to unlock new areas? Well, I have a great idea. If you've seen my last RuneScape 3 rant, you can kinda decipher that I am not a huge fan of quests. So what we could do with these league points is skip quest lines. There's a lot of huge quest lines in the game, and getting the rewards from the last quest of the quest lines is a huge progression points for an account. So instead of going through all of these quests in a quest line, what if you use your league points to get those rewards open? Let's bring up Extinction as an example for the Ring of Vigor passive. Okay, use an X amount of league points to open it, and boom, you're done. You don't have to go through that quest line. But I still feel like quests should be a meaningful thing you can do in the leagues. So if you skip the quest with these points, you wouldn't be able to get the XP rewards, because these quests also offer huge XP rewards. So this could be a meaningful choice. Do you want to grind XP with the skilling methods, or do you want to go and do a couple quests for the XP? And this could bring a meaningful level of choice into the skilling grinds as well. Also, I forgot to mention that if you buy a skip for a quest, it should skip the entire quest line, so you wouldn't be able to get XP from any of these quests, unless you did them before you skipped them. And I feel like this system for the points would be a great addition to the league, as it would give players options on what they want to do. Like players like me who don't want to do quests at all, we can skip them, we don't have to do them, we can focus on shit we like combat and using the buffs for interesting things, and some people who like the lore and the questing and the progress of that could maybe progress faster with the quests than me just AFK skilling. But then again, they would be putting more effort into them and would be rewarded by doing them. And this brings me to skilling. Skilling is always fun with an XP multiplier. It flies by and you have to do different kind of methods for different things and you progress super fast, so it feels like you're always doing something new, which is great. But in leagues, there's always relics that supercharge certain skills, like agility, thieving, fishing, mining, whatever skills that there is a way to supercharge it usually in leagues. And in this RuneScape 3 league, there is already a skilling tier relic for gathering skills at the start, which is fishing and hunter, wood cutting and farm making, and mining and archaeology. And this is kind of a disappointing tier to me, because there is a distinct lack of choice. The archaeology mining one is by far the best one. If you don't know anything about the game or are a new player, just pick that one, don't think about it. It's gonna be the best one, I promise you. The other two relic choices aren't bad in a vacuum, but the issue is the mining buff doesn't really matter, but the archaeology buff is so crazy. Just speeding up archaeology, which is like the slowest skill in the entire game, and it is the most useful skill in the entire game. At that, it's gonna help your account so much. Fishing and wood cutting, fire making, cooking, they're all nice little things you can have, but archaeology just boost everything in your account. And it's especially important for Iron Man, which you are. I even forgot that you get a boost to Hunter and Divination respectively with the other two, and it still doesn't matter. The archaeology one would alone trump all of these. If it was mining separate and archaeology separate, I would pick the archaeology one 100 times of 100. RuneScape 3 has a lot of different skilling methods that aren't really that meta relevant, so it might be interesting to do some weird kind of content for points. And I hope the developers try to add some mixing up to this skilling grind, especially early game. I feel like we could get rid of some of the requirements for Croesus and Gate of Elidinus, and they could bring down the levels needed to access these bosses. And that would make them viable training methods and more interesting for new players to go through, because currently they're kind of in an awkward middle spot where you need very high stats to even access them, and then you're just accessing them for loot. But if they were also a trading method, I feel like they would be in a much better place in the overall game meta, just like in old school RuneScape. The skilling bosses are very accessible with like mid stats like 40 fishing, 50 fire making, shit like that. And you just can't do that with the RuneScape 3 skilling bosses right now. And this could be a perfect place for them to experiment in bringing down these requirements for the main game as well. Speaking of bosses, let's talk about combat. Combat in leagues is always super fun and super unbalanced. There's gonna be things that are insanely overpowered and combinations that you wouldn't think of and would never be possible in a main game that's well balanced. But in leagues, it fits the game mode and it's super fun to try and optimize different buffs and combos and weapons. Old school leagues for a long time has used weapon style specific buffs, so you could pick a combat style and make it OP. And in the latest league, you could even pick two styles to make them kind of semi-OP, or you could bring one style all the way to the top and pick a secondary style that's kinda okay, like it's buffed from the main game, but not like super buffed. And I feel like this kind of hybrid buffing would work really well here. RuneScape has 4 combat styles instead of old school's 3, and picking 2 different combat styles could lead to a lot of different combinations, like melee necro could work really differently from mate's range. There's like a lot of combinations you could make from this and a lot of different playstyles including the combat relics you pick. And I feel like this is the best way to go. Locking to just one combat style doesn't really work in RuneScape 3 unfortunately. Unless the one style locking reduces your cooldowns a lot and you could cycle like, imagine magic and you use sun, you staff, you dummy, you do all that and they come back right as the sun ends, you would get all of that back and you could cycle and be in your damage boosting ultimate constantly. Maybe that way it could be fun to like style lock players, so cooldown reducing could be one way to actually fix this. And I think for the various combat relics we're gonna get, one of them is gonna be about cooldowns or like global GCD going faster, maybe from 3 tick to 2 tick, maybe something like that. There's also issues with that, like channels don't really work because they work on a tick basis. Maybe like making channels instant could be a relic. There's a lot of things Jagex could do to make this like a really interesting system. Like having a cooldown relic fight with a relic that makes your crit damage higher. Because there's a lot of things that work around crits in the game, so getting higher crit damage would make you do a lot more damage. Or maybe a relic or a passive that removes the damage cap, that could go kinda insane with melee. On top of the buffs that the player gets from these league buffs, that could be anything, all we know. I also wish that they made some buffs to the bosses, like made some super hard variants of the bosses that give some new buffs to the player or new rewards or whatever, just like they did in the last old school league. It was super fun to go and fight this jacked up DKs and the gargoyles that were also jacked up. And they could go absolutely wild with this, because it's just leagues content, you could make it anything, right? Just experiment, have fun. This is also an opportunity for the devs to do all kinds of crazy stuff they would never add in the game, or they don't think they would ever add to the game, but they could actually be genius ideas. And to wrap this all up, I hope this leaks is a success and brings new players to the game, or at least gives RuneScape 3 some good press, because it's been trying to change for the better, but you need to build positive reputation for a long time for it to stick, and one mistake, like adding a Squill of Fortune, can drop all of that positivity instantly. But I feel like the game is now moving into the right direction, and seeing the success of old school and what it is now, is great to see, and I hope that we in RuneScape 3 can also move into a new golden age. Also, I'm super excited to make my league build. I'm excited to theory craft it, think about different things once we get new information. I might make some relic videos if they're interesting enough for me. I think for this first relic it's super cut and dry. It isn't even a choice, so I'm not gonna cover it more than this. But for newer relics, maybe there's interesting choice to be made or interesting math behind them, and I will be covering them if I deem necessary. That's all from me. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever, all that shit. See ya.